Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Sit Downs with Charlie Brown. I am your host, EJ Charlie Brown, as per usual. And joining me once again is my brother Joe. What's up, Joe?
Hi.
Glad you're back, as usual. So if you're back, that means it is officially NHL season, which is always yours and I's favorite time of year, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, so you ready to break down the teams? Sort of like all the moves that happened over the offseason and whatnot?
Sure.
All right. So first up, Anaheim. Besides the change to their throwback uniforms, which personally I do like the Ducks chose to sleep all offseason. I get it, young core, but that's not an excuse to simply just sit around and not make significant moves when things are getting stagnant. Like, cool, you resigned Isaac Lindstrom, got John Harkins and Ryan Dumoulin. Heck, they couldn't even get the draft right because we saw the infamous memes of their third overall pick. You're being like, what? And it's just like, this team's not realizing its potential, and they just, I don't know with them. So.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, probably towards the bottom of the league again as well.
Yeah.
It's a rebuild.
Yeah. So yeah, now Boston. They didn't do a ton.
Oh.
Yeah, no, we'll get to that. Boston. Most of the core is still locked up long term. The Bruins didn't need to make any huge splashes. The big thing I think that is this main headliner for me is Allmark got shipped out. Still haven't worked out a deal with Jeremy Swayman, which I don't know if that's going to get done in time, but I think realistically they're going to have to get that done. Here's the thing, though. I don't mind getting Elias Lindholm and Nika Zadorov. Both are good players and fit needs that are Boston that are missing. Here's the thing: you don't sign them to the contracts they got. Don't say the cap's going up. They are gross overpayments. Regardless, Boston's probably still going to be in the mix for contention just because of their elite talents. So.
Yeah, well, the Jeremy Swayman thing is really big.
So. Yeah, because I think realistically, they need to get that contract worked out sooner rather than later. So. Yeah. Now, the Sabres. Core is still young and the window hasn't fully been opened yet for this group, but, I don't really know. Like, we always say that, I say this every year, like, oh, this is probably the year they break out. They never do, which is unfortunate. But, I did like their free agency. Went more for players of substance. Sam Lafferty, Jason Zucker, Nick Abe-Kubel, Dennis Gilbert, and Jacob Bryson brought in for the supporting core. I think realistically, this is a big year because they got to prove they can take the steps forward because their division's getting tougher, and realistically, I think if they're once again on the outs looking in, you're going to start having questions like, when is the turnaround going to come? Because this is the third time they've had to really strip everything down and rebuild it, and you've gotten nowhere.
Yeah, I think it's a big year for them.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I don't know if they're quite there at the playoff spot because the division is just so tough.
Yeah, no, this is one of the toughest divisions in hockey just alone. So that's pretty much where I stand with them. Maybe they can turn it around, but I don't know. Calgary. The rebuild's, still progressing, but it's on its way at a decent pace. While they're bitter at watching their scorned love win without them, progress is being made. Igor Saranovich was extended for the future piece of the core. Mostly just got guys like Jake Bean, Anthony Mantha, and Ryan Lomberg. It's just kind of looking like it's going to be another year of prospect watching in the minors for the Flames, just because, I think realistically, they got a long ways to go. They're probably, out of all the Canadian teams, they're probably the one that I think has maybe the second worst outlook right now. So.
Yeah, I think I might agree with that.
Yeah, we'll get to the others, but that's just probably where I think. Carolina, last season felt like an all-in push, and that fell flat on their face. However, the Canes, I still think they're going to be competitive, and they're pushing. So, they re-signed Chatfield, and Jacob Slavin got his first big boy contract. They did lose Gensel, but he was more of a rental anyway. But realistically, Like, they needed the money to pay Seth Jarvis. They got some more depth guys like Ghost Despair, Carrier, Justin Walker. But I think realistically, I'm not entirely sold because last year felt like their shot and they couldn't get it done.
Yeah, I do feel that, but sometimes it's always like I think teams usually are kind of better like once they've because they had all the pressure on them, and now that it's kind of off of them, I would say a little bit, then they might actually go far,
right?
Because all the pressure was on them.
Right, I get you what you're saying there. So yeah. Chicago. The Windy City is sticking to the process that the current regime is really starting to fuel. Most of their free agents were just more supporting pieces like Bertuzzi, Teravainen, Alex Martinez, and Craig Smith. Heck, they even found money to pay Pat Maroon to help be the sort of enforcer on the defense. The key to Chicago this The key to Chicago this season is just kind of staying the course with the rebuild and letting the pieces fall into place. Having Bedard develop while he waits for the likes of Nazar, Moore, Lishanov, and others ready to help aid him for the future core. In the meantime, I'm thinking this is probably going to be another year at the bottom, but it's not like it's more due to circumstance, not like it's not like they're a bad team. You get what I'm saying?
Well, I think they found their guy in Connor Bedard, and I think Lejanov can be very good for them. So it's just building around that.
Yeah, it's because I think realistically, looking at it big picture, still need defensemen. Because you're still tied to Seth Jones, and you need a goaltender. So that's the big things that I look at with Chicago. So yeah, Colorado. It just feels like realistically, 2022 feels like eons ago at this point. The Avs couldn't and didn't do a ton this offseason, mostly due to cap restraints to their current core, but they were able to find money to get Middlestat extended and sign Jacob Drouin. The key for the Avs this year, though, is they need to just stay healthy, because I feel like it's the past few years, though, everything that's undone them, injuries. Whether it's to guys like McKinnon, Makar, Carr, any one of their main players, they've just been injured. So I think realistically, they just got to keep health for a season to get season at this point.
Well, and then the big thing for them that I don't think you mentioned is Landeskog will return.
Yeah, no,
that'll be helpful.
Yeah, Landeskog coming back is helpful, but here's the thing with that though, I'm concerned because he's been out for such a long time. Who knows if we're even going to get the same Landeskog that we're known to seeing? That's the big.
Better than nothing.
I mean, yeah, that is true, but I mean, it kind of does enter. Are we going to get the same Landeskog? So, yeah. Now Columbus. I got to be honest. I don't even really know what to say about this team right now. Not because I don't think they are good or bad, but because of the circumstances they're in placement. It's been almost a month since the Johnny Gaudreau and Matthew Gaudreau incident, and it just doesn't feel real, man. I don't really know. All I can really say about it is, I'm praying for the families that were involved of the Gaudreaus, and especially the team. I'm just hoping they can find healing, because you and I both have you and I have both been to Columbus. We know how passionate that city is, and it just feels that first they had the death of Matisse, and now this.
Mm-hmm.
It just is hard to swallow.
Yeah.
In terms of their off season, though, kind of transitioning back to hockey, obviously they had Don Waddell as general manager, and they finally found the coach. It is an old face in Dean Evison. Now, personally, I think Evison's a good coach. I think realistically he fell out of Minnesota because his message was losing the room and they needed a shake. I don't think he was a bad coach, but realistically, in terms of their off season, they got Boakfist and Bean. They bought out Boakfist and Bean. They did get Sean Monahan and Jack Johnson. The main story was with this off season for them, besides the Gaudreau stuff, was Patrick Laine, who was shipped out. But what do you do with Elvis? Because I don't think he has a future in Columbus.
I don't think he does either.
No. No, yeah. But in all seriousness, regardless of this result, like, this year isn't about a rebuild for them. I feel like they're doing the season for Johnny just because it's just they have to, regardless.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right, moving on to Dallas. Dallas, yeah, like, Dallas is getting a little desperate to try and get over the hump, in my opinion, and break the whole Peter DeBoer can't win a cup narrative. They brought in Matt Duchene and Sam Steele. They brought it back Duchene and Sam Steele along with Brendan Smith for depth. They brought in Casey DeSmith to help back up Ottinger. The answer to me in Dallas is you finally had enough of Ryan Suter's crap and you bought him out. Wild fans celebrate this, but whatever. Your solution to replacing him is Ilya Labushkin and Matt Dumba? Exactly what sense does that make? My point exactly. With the division they are in, playoffs should be easy for them to acquire, barring anything massive causing them to collapse, but who knows at this point. So,
yeah. I think they can go far in the playoffs. That's just it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Detroit. This is a pivotal year for the Red Wings, if I'm being honest. Many people, including you, have started to grow a little impatient with the Yzer plan and want results. They were able to lock up Warren Sider and Lucas Raymond, which I felt like those are two of the best players they've had in a decent bid. I feel like you got to get those guys paid.
Yeah.
Paid. They were able to bring back Patrick Kane on a one-year deal, and they were able to make a splash for a playoff warrior in Vladimir Tarasenko. The goaltending, I'm a little bit iffy about. Cam Talbot and Jack Campbell. It's not really the ideal tandem I would want to roll with going into the season. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. The road's not going to be easy for them, but it's now or never for this group, so gotta wish them good luck.
They gotta do it at some point.
Yeah. Really. Now I know the one you're going to want to talk a lot about, Edmonton. So, coming up, they came up short in the Cup Finals, which, realistically, like, they were close. They were close. This is I feel like Edmonton's the one Canadian team that, out of all of them, they're probably the ones that are closest of winning the Cup. You heard me say that right. Right. The good news is, though, Ken Holland is no longer GM, which I think, honestly, might be a little bit good, because out of all the years of him in power, one thing that I've hearkened on is lack of depth issues, which, they find this was the first year they had it, so yeah. But then it was who they hired in his place. Let me get this up. You hired Stan Bowman? What is wrong with you? Why? I thought no one was going to touch him after Chicago, but apparently they just said, whatever. So, yeah, but, and also, in terms of, like, their moves, I will admit there was one thing that he did do. Many people were questioning the future of a certain Leon Draisaitl, because he had a year left on his deal, and he got paid. So, the main thing, though, is, like, Connor needs a new contract, but I guarantee you they're going to probably pay him, because, like, I feel like this almost solidifies that he's like more likely to come back than leave. So yeah. But other than that, like, Connor Brown, Josh Hamlin, Adam Henrique brought back, Victor Arvidsson, Josh Brown, and Jeff Skinner were brought in to fix the lost depth pieces. They did lose Warren Fogle, but were able to get Corey Perry back, which I think gives them the lucky charm. Calvin Pickard to back up Stuart Skinner because Jack Campbell got bought out. But realistically, like, I feel like Edmonton, this is their window, and they gotta capitalize it as best they can.
Yeah. I think they gotta make it far in the playoffs.
Yeah, because last year proved that they have what it takes to do it. I feel like the only thing stopping them is themselves. That's the main thing with Edmonton. So, yeah. So now, the Cup champions, the Florida Panthers. However, here's the thing: while the tour is a time of the champs is a special time, it does come with the usual cup tax. Sam Reinhart, one of the heart and soul players, received a brand new 8-year contract. Dmitry Kulikov and Anton Lindell don't get as big of contracts, but still solid for what they were worth. They did have to say goodbye to Brandon Montour, OEL, Tarasenko, Lomberg, and a few other more, but were able to pick up replacement bodies for cheap, like Chris Driedger and Nate Schmidt. Regardless, I feel like they're still going to probably be in the mix because they still have their main core. They still got Kachuk, they still got Barkov, and they still have Bobrovsky. So, do I think they're going to be back-to-back champs? No. But I do still see them as a team that's probably going to be in the hunt. So
they could go far still in the playoffs.
Yeah. So now moving over to the Kings. The Kings are locked up in for the long-term future. So the moves they made were not as massive this time around. They were able to get money to afford Joel Edmondson, Warren Fogle, and get Byfield his first big boy contract. So. Yeah, otherwise they mostly kind of just stuck to the RFA and fringe guys. Realistically, I'm starting to lose a little faith in the Kings because it feels like, it sort of feels like they're turning a little bit into us, where they're in cap hell, they can't really make any big moves, and realistically, like, they're a good team, don't get me wrong, but I think realistically, like, the current formula they have is starting to get stagnant, and it's not showing because I think realistically this is a team you can make the reality is it's a team you can make the playoffs with. Don't expect them to go past the first round, or like they could maybe go like to the first round but not do anything in the second. Like that's like their ceiling. So
I agree.
Yeah, but we'll see. So now moving over to the Wild or Minnesota. Entering the final year of the contract buyouts, the Wild were still not heavy buying this offseason. They traded Lettieri back to Boston for Jakob Lacko. They signed Jakob Trenin, who, don't get me wrong, like him as a player, and I think he can help the power play, but realistically, 4-year deal, man? Yeesh. I will say this, though. Brock Faber, you gave that man the contract he got. All right, because realistically, like he's a guy who price is steep, probably going to be really good in the future captain of this team. So
possibly,
yeah. Personally, I don't know if they're going to make the playoffs this year just because the division treated the off season. But I feel like realistically, like Guerin is not focused. This year is just kind of like trying to develop the young guys, like Marat, like Marat and those guys. I think realistically, next offseason though is going to be interesting because what's the game plan when the contract buyouts sort of clear out?
Yeah. I think it's important for next offseason. So
yeah, like I'm trying to think because I know like I know people were. I'm trying to think like who's the biggest chip on the.
I have no idea.
Like I'd say, yeah, because I feel like depending on who it is, I don't know if we're gonna get them. So,
okay,
yeah, that's just me. So, all right, now Montreal. The Habs are still in the process of sort of deep cleaning. So they mostly just treated the off season by doing the moves of more substance. Columbus was putting out Patrick Laine at the end of the driveway, so pick him up. If he works, great. If he doesn't, eh. However, they were also able to get extensions for Slafkovsky and Jekai to be the future. However, I do feel this needs to be similar with the Sabres. Like this needs to be a year where they sort of take another step forward because like the past few seasons, like they're the team. They're always the team that's always at the bottom of their division. So I feel like, it's been, almost 3 or 4 years since they sort of, like, did the full clean out. Like, they should be seeing some form of progress, even if it's just moving up a spot in the division.
Well, here's the problem. is that you think about Buffalo, Detroit, Montreal, and then I'll take an Ottawa as well, even though we didn't take them. And then look at Boston, Toronto, Florida, and Toronto.
Or Tampa, you mean?
Yeah. Which one of those 4 teams are they jumping?
Yeah, that's a...
Because I think the gap between those 4 teams is just so significant. And why none of these teams, why all 4 of those teams are kind of in, they need to prove it, but I don't know if they're there. Because the gap is just so big between those teams.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so we'll definitely have to see. So, Nashville. My personal picks for champions of the offseason. Dead serious. You thought they brought... Dead serious. The guys they brought in, you thought they were building an all-star team with some of these moves. Steven Stamkos, Jonathan Marchessault, Brady Shakay, and so many more. They did also choose to do something shocking, and that was extend Yusei Saros to an 8-year deal. Sadly, that means that Askarov is pissed and he wanted traded, which I get. I feel like Saros is a proven commodity. Askarov's, while he was a top pick, he's an unknown factor. So yeah. Well, I like the idea of being bold. I do have concerns about the moves. Most of the guys they brought in on big deals are either in their mid or to late 30s, and the probability of regression is a little high on those. Regardless, we are going to see if Nashville can rise up or come crashing down.
I think they will.
Do you really think that they're going to take the jump? Or all right. Well, all right. So, Jersey. Last year was a disaster undone by injuries and lack of just structure. Sure, this offseason they hopefully are able to fix the latter of those issues. Devils were in desperate need of a netminder, so they looked to Calgary for their savior in Jacob Markstrom. He wasn't overly expensive, only a first in Kevin Ball, but figured that they would have gone for a bigger chip because they probably could have. There was probably some better options out there, if I'm being honest, but whatever. They acquired Paul Cotter from Vegas, signed Brennan Pesce from Carolina, and just mostly stuck to their RFAs. The talent is there in Jersey. I just think realistically, they just got to stay healthy and they should be fine. I'm trying to remember who's in their division that, I think they're still likely to be competing in their division. So
yeah.
The New York Islanders. This team frustrates me on several occasions, and for very good reasons. Besides signing Anthony Duclair, the Islanders slept all off-season. Not really good, especially when Nelson Palmieri and others are scheduled to be UFAs next summer. In all honesty, I think, realistically, the Islanders are a team that needs to deep clean and just rebuild from the top down. Because, I feel like post Lou Lammer, post Barry Trotz, there's nothing here. They have pieces, but they need more star power if they actually want to, if they have bigger ambitions than just squeaking into the first round and then going first round, So I think realistically, they gotta, regardless, I would keep an eye on them at the deadline for both good or bad reasons. So the Rangers. Most of the core is locked up long term, so the Rangers really took the offseason and just to try and reflect on last year's loss. They re-signed Capo Caco for a year. They were close to trading Jacob Trouba, but it was nixed due to personal reasons on Trouba's end. Yeah. And the hope is that this year they can finally, last year they were close, they got to the conference finals. I think what they're hoping for is that they can just get over that hump, especially since Florida. Many people could see Florida could have a cup hangover. You never really know. No, because I think they have the talent's there. I think realistically they just gotta try and hope that the chips fall into place.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean they'll be fine.
Yeah.
They'll make the playoffs.
Yeah. Now the Senators. The main goal for this year is and even just something from Ottawa. You know, Eugene Melnick's death was supposed to usher in the new era of dominance, and it's just really not happened. You know, the offseason, they were able to make goalie adjustments because out goes Corpusalo and in comes Linus Ullmark, who's a significant upgrade over him. So there's that to look forward to. They also paid Nick Cousins, who was fresh off a Stanley Cup run. The hope is that, you know, they can just try and, because like you said, you know, there's such this big gap between the top four of like the Metro and the bottom four.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I think realistically, it's just maybe trying to shoot for the big thing is trying to shoot for like that look for the 5 or 6 spot. You know, that's what I think realistically they need for. So yeah, now the Flyers. Last year the Flyers were close until their magic really ran out of gas. However, something tells me Philly is a lot closer than we think. You know, well the only big move they made in terms of signing someone was Travis Konecny. The future has arrived in Philly. Matvei Michkov, freshly bought out of the KHL, has finally made it stateside and will join the Flyers for his inaugural season. While expectations to perform are very low, it's still something to get excited about, especially since he's the only guy likely competing with Celebrini for the Calder. Philly to me is in another year of really just in another year of house money. If they make it, cool. If not, it's a great step towards developing the future, realistically.
Yeah. And I think it's just that Matvei Michkov is just going to be a steal for them.
Yeah, no, because realistically, I feel like I said this when he got drafted, like, he's going to probably be one of the next great superstars for the Flyers. So, yeah. So Pittsburgh. The Pens are still slammed up against the cap due to a ton of their big contracts, so most of their moves were to shore up the depth on the team. They were able to put the rumors of Crosby leaving to rest, as he's here for 2 more years minimum. You know, they got guys like Sebastian Aho, Blake Lizotte, who they're hoping can be quality depth. Goaltending is looking like the Nedeljkovic show, as he's back on a 2-year deal. I will give them credit for taking McGroarty off Winnipeg for Yager, but more needs to really be done, if I'm being honest. Regardless, I don't have a ton of hope for Pittsburgh this year. You know, the core isn't getting younger, and it feels like days of competing are slowly winding down. Especially, you know, with Crosby. Like, I know he's on a 2-year deal, but who knows? Like, he has been there has been rumors this offseason about, even before the contract, that he would consider playing with McKinnon in Colorado. So yeah, I feel like that's the big thing that the Pens have got to really fight off. So
yeah, I think they'll try.
Yeah. So now the Sharks. You know, it's kind of obvious that the real prize for them this offseason for the Sharks was 2 moves. The first was drafting Macklin Celebrini, who inked his rookie contract and is going to be starting this year. The second was getting Will Smith inking his ECHL. So both of those guys are likely to be on the Sharks starting squads this year. You know, they were mostly active on the trade market. You know, got guys like Carl Gunderstrom and Jake Wallman. They were brought back Luke Cunnin, who I'm shocked he's still even in the league. You know, the big thing for them, though, and I think is going to be the thing that makes or breaks this rebuild, the Askarov trade. Because they essentially, here's the thing. Out of any you can ask anyone who's rebuilding. Hardest piece to find? Goaltending. If Askarov is anything like what he's been for the Milwaukee Admirals, he's going to essentially help kickstart the Sharks rebuild.
Yeah.
So
that's a good ad.
Mm-hmm.
They'll need like some more pieces.
Yeah, I think they need some more defensemen. You know, couple depth pieces, but I think realistically, like, they're on the right track. You know, it's gonna take a bit, but at least I think you got a good starting point. So yeah. The Kraken. You know, Seattle is still in a position where they have talent and starting to turn the corner with the new prospects on the way. It's just, I don't really know. They were able to get Hayden and McCormick back. They did open the vaults for Brandon Montour and Chandler Stevenson. My only concern with them is Dan Bielsma as head coach. Great coach with a great history, but that's the thing. That's history. It's. I don't know if he's really able to still have his edge in the modern game. Maybe he does, but
maybe.
Yeah.
We'll see what they're like.
Yeah, but I mean, hey, it's better. It's a better situation to be in than a lot of other franchises.
That's true.
Yeah. St. Louis. The hope is that the last year's regression was only a fluke, and their shakeup they made were able to fix this. Scott Perunovich is back on a 1-year deal. Vucinovic extended. They got the Joseph brothers, Broenberg and Holloway. Sadly, I don't know if it's going to be enough with the coaching change. Even worse, Torrey Krug is missing the year due to an injury. Especially since the Central is looking to get even tougher. I really don't know if the Blues have the roster.
I don't think the Blues are anywhere close to the playoffs.
Yeah, I just really don't think they have it. So yeah. Tampa Bay. Last year was tough, but Tampa Bay still thinks they really have a shot with the last breath of their old core. They got Tanner Jeannot back. They got rid of Tanner Jeannot, who they traded to the Kings. Great trade, by the way. All those picks for him. Just saying. The big question though for them was with what they were going to do with Stamkos. Sadly, he has gone off to the greener pastures of Nashville. However, that doesn't mean they weren't able to get something else in return. They went out and got Jake Gensel, and extended him to a brand new deal. They also got Hedman for another campaign. They did lose Sergachev, who we'll get to too, but realistically, there's still, there is a ton of I feel like this is sort of this needs to be a year. They need to still keep pace, just because, don't get me wrong, I get the core still has juice, but there is also the fear of, to the point where, you're in a Chicago situation. You delude yourselves, thinks that the old core is going to still maintain pace, and then you're nowhere near it.
Yeah, but I think they'll be fine.
Yeah.
They've done a good enough moves to keep competitive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So now the Toronto Maple Leafs. Oh, my God. Oh, Lord Almighty. Sadly, the Leafs did not take my advice and are choosing to run it back with the personnel. No, Leafs fans are still pissed at the one fact right now, and the fact that Mitch Marner has not been traded. But I'm not even getting down to why. They brought in Chris Tanev to replace Jake Muzzins, along with OEL, Hopkipana, etc. They got Domi and Liljegren were re-signed. Both Joseph Wall and Anthony Stolar got extensions, which I felt were necessary. However, to be honest, I feel like this is their last chance for the Leafs this year. Because here's the thing. I feel like Matthews and Nylander, they're probably staying put. I think realistically, Tavares, they wonder about his age and how much longer he's got left. I'm pretty sure that Marner's all but gone because they can't afford him. Because people have been saying he wants a big pay raise, and Toronto doesn't have the space for it. So
yeah, realistically,
it's just really it's either that or become the Canadian equivalent of the Dallas Cowboys. Your call, Toronto.
Yeah.
So yeah, now we are going to the inaugural season of the Utah Hockey Club. Yeah, the Utah Hockey Club. So the Coyotes are officially out, which it's expected, but realistically, Lee, the first season in a new city is all about making first impressions. The era of the Howling Coyote is gone, converted to Mormonism. Utah understands this and is taking full advantage under their new ownership. Because they're actually, they've actually been busy this offseason. Tampa, they were able to get Mikhail Sergachev, which I think is a great piece, and they also got John Marino. Liam O'Brien and Sean Druzy are back. Heck, they even got Tisha Ginla to sign his ECHL, which I think is going to help boost them. They still have a long way to go, but I think realistically, Utah, give them time. I think they're going to be able to piece something together.
Yeah.
So,
well, just more key, get fans in the building.
Yeah, I feel like that's a big thing for them this year. Just kind of, because the big disaster with Arizona was just the fact that nobody wanted to show out for them. And apologies to the guys that did show out. It's just realistically like they want to help make sure that Utah is around for a long time. That's the big thing with them right now. So yeah. Vancouver. Now, realistically, Lee, due to pushing last season it was undone by injuries at the worst possible time. The hope is that history won't repeat itself and the Canucks can continue with their progress. Hornacek locked up to a new 8-year deal. They brought in Teddy Bluger, Myers, Joshua Friedman, and McWard, and Logan Carlson back into the fold. They added depth in Daniel Sprong, Jake DeBrusk, and Derek Forbert. They acquired Lafferty and Mikheyev from Chicago. However, personally, big concern right now is Brock Besser. He's entering the final year of his contract, and Vancouver is hesitant at the moment. I fully get it because, remember, he had blood clots come up, and that's a serious, serious issue, especially in a sport where it requires your legs in this modern game. So I think realistically, Lee, at the same time, he's also he's a core piece of this franchise. If you lose him, it's going to be hard to replace him. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
I think Vancouver might take a step back this year, but still be in the playoffs.
Yeah,
they'll be fine.
They've made. I think
they have the talent on the roster, and they'll be good enough.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. Oh, sorry. Oh. Okay, there. So the Vegas Golden Knights, due to pushing all their chips to the table, Vegas has surprisingly had a more quiet season than their previous ones. They moved on from Logan Thompson and replaced him with Ilya Samsonov. They acquired Akira Schmidt and Alexander Holtz. They still have most of the core. However, they aren't really getting younger and have had histories of being injured for stretches. Looking at you, Mark Stone. Regardless, even if they regress, they still have their shiny cup to cherish. Hey, it's better than what the other teams often experience. So yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Washington. My new nickname for Washington: No Country for Old Men, because that's really what it is. Washington, what is wrong with you? I get trading Darcy Kemper as he lost his job to Charlie Lindgren, but acquiring him for Pierre-Luc Dubois, the guy who has been having issues with laziness lately. So, yeah, Jacob Chychrun and Matt Waugh, Logan Thompson to be the backup. Look, I get you're not focused on winning the cup, but more focused on Ovi trying to break the goal record. But you can at least try. Dead serious, you can at least build a farm system and continue the success for when Ovi hangs up the skates. But nope, you're choosing to just delude yourselves.
Yeah, they're just more focused on Ovi getting the record.
Yeah, pretty much. So the Jets. The Jets were another team that had more of a quiet offseason, which is a case for a lot of these teams. The only guy they really locked up for next year was Dylan DeMello, who got extended. Besides that, it was mostly just depth signings and RFAs. Also traded one of their top prospects in McGroarty for reasons? Okay. The problem is, do they have enough? Last year proved that deep down, I think they're still lacking the parts and haven't really addressed them properly. This needs to be a year where they prove people wrong and get over that hump. Otherwise, I think there will be some very deep troubles, because I just think, a big thing for the Jets is they've always been trying to ditch that ugly Atlanta Thrashers stench. And I feel like besides their run in 2019, they haven't really done that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So now that we got down to the nitty gritty, let me just pull up a little something here. I figured, Joe, we can try and go over our top 4 teams in each one of the divisions if you can.
Yeah.
All right. So in the Pacific Division, my top 4, it's a little here. I just want to find a up to date one. No, that's 2020. 20's. Apologies, internet. I am just having technical difficulties. Okay, yeah, this is up to date. So yeah, top 4 in the Atlantic. You know, I think it's probably what everyone has in no particular, actually in particular order. I think it goes Florida, Boston, Toronto, Tampa Bay. So
yeah, I would say the problem is that all 4 of those are very interchangeable.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably go Toronto, Florida, Boston, Tampa Bay.
Yeah. All right. So the Metro. I'd say. I think my top 4 are Rangers, Hurricanes, Devils. Final one. I'm going to say the Islanders. I don't really have a ton of faith in Pittsburgh this time around, so
I'll go with Carolina, and then I'll be a little bold and say New Jersey and think last year was just a fluke.
Mm-hmm.
Then the Rangers, and then the Flyers.
Yeah, Flyers. I wanted to say Flyers, but I feel like they're still a bit young. That's why I didn't jump on them. So yeah. Central. I'd say Dallas is number 1. Colorado, Nashville. Ooh. And I'll say Winnipeg. I want to see. I would love to see Minnesota in there, but I don't think they're ready. So yeah.
I think Dallas, Colorado, Nashville, Minnesota.
Okay. Yeah. Pacific. Edmonton is number 1. Edmonton, Vegas, L.A. My 4. I'll still say Vancouver. I still think they get in.
Vegas, Edmonton, Vancouver. I think I would say LA, but I think there's a gap between LA and Vancouver.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
That's fair. So that's the season. So that is sort of our predictions going into the season. Joe, thank you once again for coming on with me. And hopefully we'll see you back for the All-Star break. So until the next guy, peace.